Maryland cops on the wrong side of the law.
We have secured indictments against 5 law enforcement officers.
The shocking assault caught on camera involving officers from Baltimore County. Incredible video shows a car flip over after the driver is shot. Now a suspect is under arrest. What we're learning about the confrontation that ended in gunfire. Then a survey given to students at a local school raising controversy. The question that has parents outraged.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
Breaking right now as we come on the air, 2 adults have been charged with murder after the Kansas City Super Bowl parade shooting last week. A local radio DJ was killed and 22 people hurt in that shooting. Many of the victims are children. Now, the 2 adults facing charges have both been in the hospital since the shooting. Police say a dispute in the crowd started the violence. It was not a pre-planned attack on the crowd. Also, 2 juveniles were charged with gun offenses and resisting arrest. We'll update this story as we learn more. Also breaking tonight, as we come on the air, Baltimore County Police have closed their case regarding an incident allegedly involving Baltimore Ravens wide receiver Zay Flowers. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Let's go right to Fox 45's Keith Daniels with the details on all of this. Keith?
Well, again, Mary and Kai, this investigation closes with no charges filed against Zay Flowers. To be clear, he was never named as a suspect in this investigation, and police never accused him of having committed a crime. Now, all of this stems from Baltimore County Police investigating an alleged domestic assault involving Flowers reported last month. Now, new documents and 911 audio obtained by Fox 45 News reveal that a woman reported to police in Acton, Massachusetts, that she had been involved in a physical altercation with a, quote, high-profile individual. She later said it was an NFL player and that she was scared to document it. Now, according to the police report, when the victim was being interviewed by police, she alleged Flowers' agent was calling her cell phone. Now, ultimately, all of that triggered an investigation by Baltimore County Police, who did go to Flowers' Owings Mills home for a welfare check. But after an investigation that lasted for about a month, today, the decision from Baltimore County Police, the case is closed without charges. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you for that update. For our full coverage on this breaking story, head to foxbaltimore.com.
Fox 45 is following multiple stories in a city in crisis. An arrest has been made in a Northeast Baltimore shooting that led to a rollover crash. We'll tell you what happened and what we've learned about the suspect just this afternoon. But first, the Baltimore City State's attorney has announced criminal indictments against 5 area police officers in 3 separate cases. One of those cases, the excessive force and assault on a suspect while in police custody. Our coverage starts with Alexa Ashwell. She was there for today's announcement, joins us now live in studio with just released body-worn camera footage. Alexa?
Yes, Mary, and the body-worn camera footage you're about to see was just released by Baltimore County Police. The agency, according to City State's Attorney Ivan Bates, made his office aware of this incident. His investigation has resulted in the indictment of a police corporal who is accused of assault and excessive force, and 2 officers who he says failed to intervene. Investigators releasing body-worn camera footage, they say, shows the interaction between suspect Justin Russell and Baltimore County Police Corporal Zachary Small outside Johns Hopkins Hospital back in September.
You break that window, you're gonna get the whole can of pepper spray. I can't breathe. I don't care. All right, so I'm on a bang, bro. You want to get sprayed? I will spray you. I cannot breathe. You got all the windows rolled down in the air and there's stuff. It's not on, bro. It's not on, bro. No. No, bro. You're not killing me like this. Please don't kill me like this. Watch out. Spray. Spray. Not doing it.
Corporal Zachary James Small.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates detailing indictments against Corporal Small, as well as County Officer Jacob Roos and County Officer Justin Graham Moore.
Gone are the days where officers can just stand by and turn a blind eye.
According to the indictment, while exchanging suspect Justin Russell, who had escaped police custody while at Hopkins, Corporal Small assaulted and used excessive force on the detainee. At the time, investigators say there were 9 Baltimore County police officers, 7 Baltimore City police officers, and 2 Johns Hopkins Hospital security guards present.
We looked at every single officer's body camera to figure out what they could see and what they couldn't see. And so what we really did is looking at what every single officer, what we could prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe at all. I'm on the ground. Let's get a wagon. I can't breathe. Please help. You asked for it. You asked for it. Remember this. I warned you. I warned you. To open the window. Shut up. Please, bro.
City State's Attorney Bates dismissing the first-degree assault charge against Corporal Small, indicting him on second-degree assault, reckless endangerment, excessive force, and misconduct charges.
I did feel that there would be some evidentiary issues in proving first-degree assault.
The other 2 officers are charged with failing to intervene under a newer excessive use of force law put into the books less than 2 years ago. This case, Bates' first time filing charges under this statute.
Our interpretation of the law is that they have a duty to do something.
A spokesperson for County PD confirms all 3 members are suspended with pay, and there is an ongoing internal investigation. Now, Bates announced indictments against 5 officers today. The other 2 cases involve city officers. More on those cases at 5. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. New information after a dramatic shooting and rollover caught on camera in Northeast Baltimore. Police say it was targeted, and a Baltimore County man is in custody for attempted first-degree murder. Fox 45's Amy Simpson is live right now at police headquarters. Amy, what are you learning?
Yeah, so Kai, likely some relief today for neighbors to learn this was not a random act of violence. And today, police announcing that a Cockeysville man, 27-year-old Michael Armstrong, now facing a first-degree attempted murder charge.
A brazen attack caught on camera Monday morning. A woman trying to get away as a gunman appears to open fire, hitting another car and overturning in this Northeast Baltimore neighborhood. Tonight, police say the crime was targeted. The suspect, 27-year-old Michael Armstrong of Cockeysville, in custody. He allegedly targeted the female victim after an argument. Police say that victim, a 42-year-old woman, is in stable condition after being shot in the arm and hand. But that gunfire, going off about 7:45 Monday morning, was heard by neighbors who live nearby.
Me and my fiance were getting ready to go to work, and we hear about 10 to 12 gunshots. I recognized gunshots immediately.
Leaving this community on edge.
I lived here my whole life, and Baltimore always gets that rep. If it's Baltimore, it's Baltimore. But now it feels like that rep's starting to get a little bit more true, and I don't like it.
Dispatch from BPD's Northeastern District reveals the victim's boyfriend was likely one of the 911 calls from the scene.
Call says his girlfriend was shot. It's going to be the complaint that he can't get her out of the vehicle.
And dispatch chatter from Monday morning also revealing one question being asked almost immediately.
So let's ask this question. Does she know the person who shot her?
Tonight, it's unknown what that argument was about or how the suspect and victim knew each other before violence unfolded in what neighbors say is a typically quiet part of Northeast Baltimore. According to police, this suspect was found less than half a mile from the scene of the crime.
And that attempted first-degree murder charge is still so new. Case information is still not available in Maryland's online court record database. Charging documents for Armstrong will likely reveal what that argument was about before those gunshots. We're live at police headquarters. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. A Baltimore man is arrested for attempted murder. 41-year-old Terrence Hazelwood is charged with shooting a 31-year-old man last Friday. Police say it happened just before 9 along North Carey Street. The victim was taken to the hospital. His injuries are not life-threatening. Hazelwood is facing attempted murder charges.
Mental health services will be coming to communities across Maryland this spring. It's part of the blueprint for Maryland's future. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live from Annapolis right now. So, Mackenzie, what's the price tag for these plans that we know of so far?
So, Kai, it's $111 million, and that's going towards nearly 130 different grant programs. Now, supporters of this argue that some mental health services for kids have never been more necessary than right now. And some of these grants that are awarded will go towards mental health services, behavioral health services, even family support, as well as substance use disorder. But, however, this also comes at a time when we continue to hear concerns about the growing price tag for Blueprint, funding future concerns, as well as how some of this money will be tracked. So today we press leaders on how people's tax dollars will be tracked, as well as the progress for these programs overall.
There will be a lot of data collected, a lot of information that each service provider will be responsible for developing. So we will be able to measure the success of these programs.
How often will the service providers be required to provide that data?
I think that one time at the beginning, it'd be like 3, then 6 months, 3 months, then 6 months, and on an ongoing basis.
And if they're not providing the services adequately?
And the staff will be addressing that issue, I assure you.
That was the chair of the committee overseeing the grant funding and the selection process. And while he says that Marylanders should be assured that there will be some tracking involved, it's still unclear exactly how the progress will be tracked, as well as your tax dollars, to make sure that that money isn't going to waste.
So some questions obviously still remain, Mackenzie. And Mackenzie, the long-term funding for the blueprint also remains a question. Will that impact the grants as you understand it?
That was one of the biggest questions that we all had today, and I asked Senate President Bill Ferguson that exactly. He says no. He says that as long as the lawmakers are in place that are there right now remain, that this will continue to be a priority. But again, we continue to hear from leaders all across the state, from Baltimore City, Carroll County, Prince George's County, raise concerns about the growing price tag and what that could mean for local budgets. Coming up at 5, we'll take a deeper dive into what some of these grant programs are and how the state will continue to track the progress moving forward. We're live in Annapolis. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
All right, Mackenzie Frost trying to get clarity on mental health services coming to Maryland. Thank you, Mackenzie. Meantime, lawmakers have been debating public safety policies this session. A bill being discussed right now would make stealing a handgun a felony. Right now, it's just a misdemeanor. Proponents say the bill will crack down on gun crime.
Look, we've passed it through the Senate a couple times as parts of other bills. We're hoping that we can get really strong anti-crime legislation through both chambers. House of Delegates has at times been a little bit recalcitrant to try to pass anything that would enhance penalties on criminals. I think this is the time for us to do more to really crack down on criminals and criminal activity. So this would be one small piece of that, but I think it's an important piece.
Now, some Democrats, like Delegate Stephanie Smith, say it's important to identify that there are a number of causes of gun crime. She says this policy won't solve the issue of guns coming from out of state and being sold in Maryland.
In Baltimore City alone, over 2/3 of the guns used in crimes of violence are actually coming from somewhere else. The majority are being trafficked in. They're not being bought from out of state. They're being trapped. They're being brought to Maryland and they're being purchased here. The vast majority are not being stolen. So I'd want to untease trafficked and stolen. The vast majority are being trafficked in.
Fox 45 will bring you the latest from Annapolis on public safety policy, youth crime, the budget, and other big issues facing your community. For our full coverage, head to our website, foxbaltimore.com. Nearly $1 million is paid out to Baltimore County school employees who no longer work in the school system. Project Baltimore digs into the audit and the other financial issues it exposed.
A group of parents is petitioning to end diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at their children's school. Why a form asking kids for their gender identity has caused so much controversy.
So far, so good out there. It's 45 degrees. We're going to see our temperatures sticking in the 40s until around 7 o'clock, dropping below freezing, but we have some milder temperatures on the way before we have a late week storm system. We're going to talk about that coming up.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Tonight, some parents with children at St. Paul's schools in Baltimore County have started a petition asking administrators to stop DEI programs. Fox 45's Jessica Babb showing us why some say the school's approach is inappropriate. Jessica?
Online, St. Paul's schools say they want to create a space where everyone feels valued and respected. But according to the online petition, more than 140 parents say they don't agree with how the school is doing it. Inside this gate at St. Paul's School, this survey stirred up controversy.
It asks kids very intrusive questions.
A parent saying an identity survey was given to 5th grade students at St. Paul's School for Boys, asking students about their gender identity, sexuality, religion, and cognitive abilities. Now, this petition has surfaced where parents are voicing their concerns.
Parents should be in the driver's seat in their kids' education.
They're saying the school's diversity, equity, and inclusion program should be stopped until a defined plan can be put in place and is approved by the community. Alexis Nestor with Parents Defending Education says parents just want to be included.
They're asking for the board to simply present a plan. That's the most basic thing that this school could do for these families.
The petition saying in part, quote, the administration is pursuing the program in a manner that either lacks competence or good judgment.
They're also asking the board to prove that these DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives can prove, good results for kids.
Parents also saying the conversation of sexual orientation and preferences at school is, quote, inappropriate and unnecessary.
The focus should be on education, and these parents are raising the red flag.
Online, St. Paul's School for Boys say their students learn to appreciate a variety of backgrounds and beliefs, and diversity is a key part of education. They also say their Inclusive Community Faculty Committee meets throughout the year, focusing on their framework, community events, and professional development.
I mean, these are parents who are paying for their kids to attend this private school, and they have a right to be included in those conversations.
I reached out to St. Paul's School asking about their response to this petition and if they have a plan in place for how DEI is implemented. If not, I asked if they plan to create one.
Parents are speaking up and trying to hold the Board of Trustees accountable.
So far, I have not gotten my questions answered from St. Paul's schools. And of course, we'll keep you updated. Live in Baltimore County, Jessica Babb, Fox 45 News.
Good Tuesday afternoon, everybody. I mean, it's not so bad outside. I spent most of my morning, and I'm going to admit it, I had to be underneath my car. I was doing some repair work, but you know what? The longer I was outside in it, the less cold it felt. I mean, really, you kind of get used to this after some time. It's 45 degrees today, and well, it's still fairly typical what we get around here, but a very light wind. I saw it just occasionally getting a little bit breezy. But for those that are joggers, runners, anyone who likes to spend your days outdoors, today was kind of one of those perfect ones. They like it kind of on the cool side to start, but it was a very pleasant one by the afternoon. So here we are, still sitting mostly in the 40s. I'm not sure if Frederick's really reporting correctly or not, but 50 degrees, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it is 50 degrees in Frederick, and if that's the case, very mild, very nice. And we're going to continue to see this pattern sitting around for a few more days. We have high pressure that's starting to break down a little bit, but we've got another day and a half of some drier to more mild weather coming until the energy you see out there across the Pacific is going to start heading our way, and that's going to bring us our next chance for rain. So here's future scan. No problems as we move through your Wednesday, except maybe early in the morning, some fog may be around, but we're not going to say much of that until later. So Thursday is when we're going to see our next system arrive. It's going to bring us our chance for rainfall. It's going to be late into Thursday, so probably at the very earliest, the afternoon more likely, the overnight hours, and that will linger into your Friday. It's probably going to be a messy Friday for most of us here, especially in the morning. As the day rolls on, though, most of this should clear out, so we're looking good, especially as we get into the weekend, so no problems, but we're going to get a decent helping of rainfall with that system, probably around a quarter to a half an inch of rainfall, just sort of depends. And our temperatures, while they're going to take a little bit of a dip with that system, we're still going to be quite above this average high here. So we're going to reach the upper 50s as we get to Friday as the storm goes through. But Saturday, one dip right back to your average. But look at this. Look at that stretch coming. Mary's going to like this when she gets here to next week. 60s on tap. Yes, that is quite a likelihood as we head into next week. So we're starting to transition a little bit here. There's our storm system. Rain, especially overnight, but could linger easily into your Friday. And we take that dip in our temperatures, as you see, but that's just back to normal. And then we're back to some mild weather. And look at this. We're going to start to see our temperatures beginning to recover next week.
Well, the U.S. is placing more sanctions in Russia or on Russia. Why President Biden says a Russian opposition leader's death cannot go unpunished.
I'm Kayla Gaskins with the latest on the GOP race as Donald Trump and Nikki Haley head to South Carolina.
Nikki Haley and Donald Trump preparing to face off again in the upcoming South Carolina GOP presidential primary. Haley is barely chipping away at Donald Trump's massive lead, but she refuses to give up. Here's national correspondent Kayla Gaskins.
It's a great day in South Carolina.
Despite a nearly impossible path to victory, Nikki Haley refusing to wave the white flag.
I'm not going anywhere.
Addressing a crowd in her home state of South Carolina Tuesday, where GOP primary voters will head to the polls this weekend.
When the country's future is on the line, you don't drop out. You keep fighting. In fact, you fight harder than ever.
A new Suffolk USA Today poll has Haley trailing Donald Trump by 28 points among likely South Carolina Republican primary voters. Trump's campaign releasing attack ads ahead of Saturday.
I fought the gas tax in South Carolina.
Nikki Haley is proposing a hike on the state's gasoline tax.
But the delegate math is not in Haley's favor. To win the nomination, a candidate must secure an estimated 1,215 convention delegates.
There's a whole big thing about momentum in politics, especially in primaries. And if it turns against you and you can't get a single state, that could really dry up those delegates.
Trump's campaign running hypothetical scenarios. For example, if Haley performs in the upcoming matches, as she did in New Hampshire, where she won 43% of the vote, Trump still wins handily. In that scenario, he'll clinch the top of the ticket by March 19th. The race could be decided even sooner. If Trump performs in the upcoming primaries at current polling levels, he'll have a majority of delegates by March 12th. Some experts speculate Haley is hanging on in the event Donald Trump's legal issues derail his nomination.
She wants to go into the Republican convention with a slate of delegates and say, I'm next person up.
But others say that strategy is flawed, arguing in the unlikely event Trump is sidelined, the party would never replace him with an anti-Trump candidate. I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting.
Without officers' cooperation, Baltimore's citation docket cannot work as intended, looking into the barriers keeping the city from connecting people with programs designed to help them. Shattered glass from broken car windows around Patterson Park. Fox 45 News is pressing police on what they're doing to stop a rash of car break-ins in the area. Fox 45 News demanding answers from police on what they're doing to protect Patterson Park, the area littered with shattered glass from break-in attempts.
But first, the battle over the city's citation docket continues. We'll take a closer look at the growing frustration over a lack of citations and how it's stopping people from getting the help the program is looking to provide. We have live team coverage this evening, starting with Maxine Stryker and the latest on the controversy surrounding the city's citation docket. Maxine?
Well, Kai, the goal of the citation docket is not jail time for offenders, but rather to connect them with wraparound services or even have them do community service. But if citations aren't being written, the concern is people are being left behind as communities continue to deal with low-level crime. So we took a closer look at the data and found of the 279 total citations issued by all agencies since the docket's inception, just 72 people have completed an alternative program, such as drug or alcohol diversion, and 47 people accepted community service, 4 rejected it. We also found 45 people were issued a bench warrant for failing to appear.
We feel like that
there are individuals out there who perhaps could use some direction with the diversion resources that we can offer, and it's a missed opportunity.
That same concern also coming from several city council members tonight. Deputy State's Attorney Angela Galliano also says there's some frustration with another piece of the puzzle, the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. We'll have more on that coming up at 5:30, but live for now in Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you. Car thefts continue to be an issue across Baltimore City. Last year saw a 200% increase in car thefts. And so far this year, BPD is recording an additional 90% rise. Plus, some areas are being hit harder than others. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor joins us now from Patterson Park, where residents say car crimes are pretty much spinning out of control. Rebecca?
Yeah, Mary, Patterson Park every day draws dozens, if not hundreds, of residents to its massive athletic fields, to its walking trails, many of them parking here along the park's outer edge, where recently there has been a massive uptick in car break-ins. Take a look. Remnants of the rise in crime cover almost every corner. Today we walked this 16-block stretch of Eastern Avenue between Elwood and Patterson Park Avenue. In less than a mile span, our cameras counted 62 piles of shattered glass from broken car windows. And on social media, images of back-to-back break-ins are being shared consistently. Last Friday, a string of 4 cars were reportedly hit in one night, and 4 weeks ago, an attempted auto theft was caught on camera, and that happened around the same time Carrie Hall says her passenger side window was smashed for the second time in just 2 weeks. Almost everyone that we spoke with at the park today has either had their car broken into or stolen, or they know someone who has. Take a listen to some of the concerns that are now being shared.
I'll illegally park on the smaller streets before I'll park on Patterson or Eastern.
Sounds like someone just went on a one-street rampage.
It's just frustrating and got me to thinking, like, is this a safe place for me to be?
Now, in response to those concerns, the area's District 1 Councilman Zeke Cohen sent Fox 45 a statement today. It reads in part, quote, "Today I spoke with Major Collin about providing additional patrol to address car break-ins. He committed to increasing patrols around the park during the hours when these crimes are typically committed. Residents should not be subject to nightly car break-ins." And taking a look at BPD's crime map this afternoon so far this year, District 1, has recorded the most car break-ins of any of the city's other 14 council districts. Reporting live from Patterson Park, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Rebecca. The car theft crisis is a citywide issue. In fact, Fox 45 News obtained security footage of a carjacking in Pigtown over the weekend. In the video, you can see the group of teens surveying the area before approaching the victim's car and forcing their way inside. The victim shared the terrifying details with police.
He produced the handgun, held it to my victim's head apparently, and demanded his phone.
Well, according to Baltimore police, the vehicle was found in southwest Baltimore. Inside, 2 15-year-olds and 2 16-year-olds, according to police. Now, the crime is leaving this Pigtown resident stunned.
I'm actually just overall just shocked. It's just this time. These days I think it's rougher. Got to take a risk every day.
Well, youth crime is the top issue in Annapolis this session, with new bills from Democrats that would extend juvenile probation, change policy within DJS, and allow kids as young as 10 to be charged with violent crimes and car thefts. But those bills clash with the philosophy of Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi. Last night at a Your Voice, Your Future town hall with Armstrong Williams, we pressed Governor Moore on whether the rift between the bills he's now backing and Schiraldi's ideas could cause an issue in the state's juvenile crime response. Governor Moore didn't hesitate to tell Marylanders who ultimately has the final say.
There was no long-term relationship that sometimes gets advertised. And I think it's also important to remember that the policies that are put out from the Moore-Miller administration, let's be clear who the governor is.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live from Annapolis after pressing the governor on those issues. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Kai, so we know the governor says that not everyone's views in their past may represent his current administration, but today when we pressed him, the governor continues to double down on reiterating and telling Marylanders who ultimately is in charge. If the secretary's views don't align with your administration, why is he in that position?
Well, I know the policies for the Moore-Miller administration are going to be the policies for the Moore-Miller administration. A position or an opinion that someone held in their past job or in their past life, that's the position they had in the past job or in a past life. I know that the positions that we have in our administration about focusing on accountability when it comes to our juveniles, about that we are going to be a state that is going to strengthen how we think about parole and probation and not eliminate parole and probation. These are the policies of our administration. And so while we might have people within the administration who might in other jobs have said X, Y, or Z, we're also very clear that we're one team here, and these are policies that are going to be followed within our administration with me as the team captain, as the governor.
But that's not exactly what we're seeing play out right now, right? We know that Secretary Schiraldi, the leader of the Department of Juvenile Services, recently published a book outlining the notion of eliminating parole and probation. That book was published in September of last year while Schiraldi was in the position of secretary leading this department. So while the governor maintains that people in his administration are all working together and have one view and are all on the same team, it's clear that there are still varying opinions within those in his administration. We're live in Annapolis. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Mackenzie. And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you trust the governor to get the juvenile crime crisis under control? So far, 83% of those who voted say no. You can head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Project Baltimore is sponsored by the Snyder Law Group. Don't just sue them, Snyder them.
Baltimore County Public Schools this year will receive a record amount of funding, nearly $2.5 billion.
But as Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, a recent report found the school system paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to employees who should not have been on the payroll.
This is simple. This should not be happening at any level of government.
David Williams is with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. He's been a government watchdog for 31 years. But the findings of this audit conducted by Baltimore County Public Schools.
This is the first time that I've seen it to this extent.
The audit was performed by the BCPS Office of Internal Audits, which found the school system paid more than $820,000 to employees who no longer worked for the school system. The audit calls them separated employees, which simply means they've been separated from their jobs.
This is a basic function of an organization, is when you leave, you don't get paid anymore.
According to the audit, 174 separated employees were overpaid about $736,000 between January 2020 and March 2023. But a previous investigation, which prompted the audit, had already found more than $87,000 in overpayments to former employees. This all adds up to more than $823,000 in overpayments, which the report blames on a lack of internal controls. In short, the district did not remove the employees from payroll after they stopped working.
For them to have to spend any amount of time to fix this means that the system is completely broken and that there needs to be a whole revamp of the system.
The report scolds the school system, saying, if not corrected, the potential risks to BCPS include reputational risk, undue financial liability, and continued opportunity for fraudulent activity. To fix the problem, the audit recommends that BCPS implement internal controls to quickly remove separated employees from payroll, while at the same time recovering the erroneous payments. To date, according to the district, about $103,000 in overpayments have been paid back, but some of the money cannot be collected because the statute of limitations under Maryland law has expired. And take a look at this. The audit recommends that BCPS determine additional loss related to non-salary expenses. You see, the $823,000 was just money paid to former employees. It does not include benefits, such as pension payments, annuity payments, or health care. In other words, the cost to taxpayers
could be much higher than this.
This $800,000 is just the floor. There's probably a lot more that was paid out. Probably more than $1 million at this point when it comes to pensions and other payouts. This needs to be fixed immediately. This cannot wait.
In a statement, BCPS told Project Baltimore that a corrective action plan has been developed and the district is working to fully implement the internal controls. The district added, "We are confident that with these new measures in place, future errors of this nature will be prevented." But Project Baltimore asked the district if it's determined those additional losses mentioned in the audit, such as pension payments. The statement did not answer that question.
And I think this is emblematic of the problem of education in Maryland right now, is that they're not doing even the simplest of tasks, and that's tracking people that have left. Baltimore County and the state are struggling financially, and they need to account for where every dollar has gone. And to only see a 3-year snapshot of this problem really begs the question, what has been happening for the past 10, 15, 20 years?
I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Project Baltimore wants to hear from you. Do you have a story to share about your child's education or a concern you'd like our team to investigate? Call the tip line on your screen or send an email to projectbaltimore@foxbaltimore.com. You can also find us on social media. The U.S. is getting ready to levy new sanctions against Russia. The growing fallout from Alexei Navalny's death.
Well, we can't complain too much. As far as February days go, it's been pretty decent, but we have milder temperatures moving in and then a late week storm system. But are you a little weary of the winter? Could we have some spring weather on the way? I have some news that you might like. If you are one of those, stick around and find out.
President Biden is preparing what the White House says are major sanctions against Russia in the wake of Alexei Navalny's death. Russian officials say the political opposition leader and critic of Vladimir Putin collapsed on a walk before his sudden death. He had been held as a prisoner in a Russian penal colony for years. U.S. officials have not determined how Navalny died, but say ultimately it was Vladimir Putin's responsibility. Details on the new sanctions against Russia will be released Friday. Well, meantime, Navalny's family is accusing Russian leaders of covering up his cause of death. Russian authorities are refusing to release his body for weeks as they conduct what they call a chemical analysis. Navalny's family accuses Russia of trying to hide the evidence of how he died, saying Putin may have actually poisoned him. Navalny's mother directly called out the Russian president in a video.
They won't give me his body. They don't even tell me where he is. I'm addressing you, Vladimir Putin.
Well, Putin hasn't commented on Navalny's death, but Kremlin officials denounce Western claims that Putin is to blame. As the U.S. prepares to levy sanctions over Navalny's death, it's also trying to recover multiple U.S. citizens being held in Russia. A 33-year-old Los Angeles resident has been detained by Russian authorities on suspicion of treason. The unnamed woman has dual Russian-American citizenship. She's accused of raising funds to support Ukraine as it fends off Russia's invasion. Treason under Russian law is punishable by up to 20 years in prison. And a Wall Street Journal reporter will remain behind bars in Russia until at least March 30th. A Russian court upheld that detention of 32-year-old Evan Gershevik. Now, the U.S. government maintains Gershevik was wrongfully or is being wrongfully detained. The U.S. vetoes a UN resolution for an immediate ceasefire in Israel. The U.S. says it could not agree to the proposal because it doesn't call for the return of the remaining hostages held by the terrorist group Hamas. The U.S. is putting forward its own proposal, calling for a pause in fighting, the release of all hostages, and the delivery of key aid to Gaza. The U.S. proposal also warns against an Israeli ground incursion into Rafah, something Israeli leaders have threatened if the hostages are not returned by the start of Ramadan. California is battling intense flooding right now. While the storms are not as severe as the ones the state saw in January, it's still getting hit hard by winter rain. Roughly 37 million Californians are under flood alerts. This is a look at some of the roads covered in water and destructive mudslides blocking lanes on highways and damaging homes.
We haven't really gotten a break out there in California. This time of the year is their winter storm season, which means that they get those systems. It can be a good thing, but it's a little more intense this year because they are in, or all of us are actually in, an El Nino pattern. Remember, El Nino is just higher or warmer than water temperatures, warmer than average, off the equatorial Pacific. Can you believe it has such profound impacts on the weather? Yes, it has profound impacts on our weather here too, but right now we are sitting pretty much as average and as typical as you can get for February around here. So 45 degrees outside, this is pretty much exactly what our average temperature would be, but we are really lucky in that we are getting some quiet weather right now, and it is going to remain that way 1 to 1.5 more days before we get some energy out of that Pacific storm system that's hitting them. It's going to kind of morph itself into a new one, but we are going to get our storm system to arrive later into the week. That's going to bring us our chances for rain, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a winter producer at all. So if you have been a little tired of the winter weather, we might have some good news for you. Starting with tomorrow, it starts out kind of chilly, but we're going to reach the mid-40s again, no problem. Maybe a couple places reaching the upper 40s to around 50 degrees. We'll start out with some morning fog likely on Thursday, but that can just be a prelude to some warmer air, and it's definitely going to be a prelude to some more moisture to hit our area. So we'll hit Thursday around the 50s, and then here comes our moisture. That means that some rain chances are going to be coming up, especially Thursday night into Friday. And this is that storm system. Again, there's the clock. Late Thursday, most likely to the overnight hours, and then we'll continue to see that rain lingering around for your Friday before it's clearing out just in the nick of time for the weekend. So that's the good news. It's just going to last, once again, mainly in the overnight hours, and we'll get anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch of rain out of this one, but not any snowfall. At least that's not what we're seeing at all. Our temperatures take a little bit of a dip below our average high, but very briefly, and look at them soar as we go into next week. That is some springtime weather we may actually have. We're talking February 26th to March 3rd. At the very least, we can say we're going to be well above the average, or very likely here in Baltimore. But not just here, but look at this. The entire eastern half of the United States is going to feel this warm up. Not to say it's going to be perfect springtime weather, because it may be accompanied by some rainfall. At least that's what we are seeing. Another storm system to come and bring that. But at the very least, we'll get some warmer temperatures in here. There's the rainfall that we're talking about with that next storm system. That's late Thursday night through Friday. We cool down briefly, but look at that. We're talking 60s by the time we get into next week. Could linger around.
All right, Gerard, thank you. Coming up at 5 o'clock on Fox 45, the debate over how to handle the crisis at the border continues in Washington. The heated back and forth from both sides.
The FBI sounding the alarm about cyber attacks from China. I'm Atrel Nashar with how it could impact everything from drinking water to cell phones.
Watch Fox 45 News free anytime on Amazon Fire TV or Samsung TV Plus. The U.S. and its allies are concerned about the threat of a cyber attack by China. They met recently in Munich for a security conference where experts warned they are woefully unprepared. National correspondent Dr. El-Nashar explains what they fear could happen.
FBI Director Christopher Wray warning U.S. allies and partners the Chinese Communist Party is putting its entire government behind an effort to undermine global security, rapidly developing cyber tools combined with espionage and election interference to do it.
The cyber threat posed by the Chinese government is massive. China's hacking program is larger than that of every other major nation combined.
China building cyber weapons within critical infrastructure, poised to attack when Beijing decides the time is right.
To cut us off from our water or electricity whenever they want, to take control of our phones or our personal data.
Members of Congress acknowledge the federal, state, and local governments and private companies that run these utilities are not prepared. In a recent op-ed for The Hill, Charles Clancy, Chief Technology Officer at research and development company MITRE, writes, A 100-foot tsunami is coming, and we're rearranging sandbags on the ground. Should the time come, it would be massively disruptive for everyday Americans. Cornell professor Rick Geddes.
Your cell phone, so that's all now wireless, and so that's connected to towers, connected to satellites. If there were some sort of a cyber attack on that type of infrastructure, there's no backup.
Control systems for water and sewage plants connected to the internet are also vulnerable.
They're stretched, and they just don't have the internal bandwidth to address these cybersecurity threats on their own. So they really need help.
Geddes and other experts say localized training and support are the best defense, so operators can detect and respond to a cyber attack in real time. And time is of the essence. FBI Director Wray says China is using artificial intelligence to rapidly improve its hacking operation. Chinese authorities consistently deny these accusations. In Washington, I'm Atrel Najar.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, questions surrounding yesterday's car rollover and shooting. A closer look at the intense footage showing the moments leading up to the shooting. In Fox 45 News, presses state leaders on funding about the Kerwin plan. We're live in Annapolis questioning Senate President Bill Ferguson.
New services will be offered as part of the blueprint for Maryland's future. Fox 45 News taking a closer look at how much it could cost you, the taxpayer.
An alarming reality as broken glass from car thefts and break-ins lines Patterson Park. We're analyzing the numbers and pressing city council members on fighting crime.
Plus, new details in the shooting that resulted in a car rolling over. What we're learning about the motive behind the attack.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
Fox 45 is following breaking news. Baltimore County Police have closed the case regarding an incident allegedly involving Baltimore Ravens wide receiver Zay Flowers. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Let's get right to Fox 45's Keith Daniels with an update on this case. Keith?
Well, Mary and Kai, this investigation closes again with no charges filed against Zay Flowers. Now, to be clear, he was never named a suspect in this case, and police never accused him of having committed a crime. Now, all of this stems from Baltimore County Police investigating an alleged domestic assault involving Flowers reported last month. New documents and 911 audio obtained by Fox 45 News reveal that a woman reported to police in Acton, Massachusetts, that she had been involved in a physical altercation with what she called a high-profile individual. She later said it was an NFL player and that she was scared to document it. Now, according to the police report, when the victim was being interviewed by police, she alleged Flowers' agent was calling her cell phone. Ultimately, all of that triggered an investigation by Baltimore County Police, who did go to Flowers' Owens Mills home for a welfare check. But again, this investigation, it lasted for about a month, but today, the decision from Baltimore County Police not to file any charges. Of course, we'll have more on this story coming up tonight on our 10 o'clock news. We're live now. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. For our full coverage on this breaking story, head to foxbaltimore.com. And we are also following breaking news out of Kansas City tonight. Prosecutors are now charging 2 adults with felony murder in last week's shooting just after the Chiefs Super Bowl parade. 1 person died, 22 others were injured, and comes after 2 juveniles were detained on gun-related and resisting arrest charges. Police say the shooting was the result of a dispute among several people at the parade.
Are you able to clarify what that argument was that began all of this?
No, we cannot. You can obviously see that there is, some kind of verbal argument occurring, and it just turns deadly.
The charges are the latest in the investigation. According to the prosecutor, the 2 being charged were involved with the wider group, which included those juveniles. The Baltimore City State's attorney has announced criminal charges against 5 area police officers in 3 separate cases. One of those cases, the excessive force and assault on a suspect while in police custody. Alexa Ashall was there for today's announcement, joins us now live in studio with a just-released body-worn camera. Alexa.
Mary, the body-worn camera footage you're about to see was just released by the Baltimore County Police Department. The agency, according to City State's Attorney Ivan Bates, made his office aware of this incident. His investigation has resulted in the indictment of a police corporal who is accused of assault and excessive force, and 2 officers who he says failed to intervene. Investigators releasing body-worn camera footage, they say, shows the interaction between suspect Justin Russell and Baltimore County Police Corporal Zachary Small outside Johns Hopkins Hospital back in September.
You break that window, you're going to get the whole can of pepper spray. I can't breathe. I don't care. All right, so I'm on a bang, bro. You want to get sprayed? I will spray you. I cannot breathe. You got I got all the windows rolled down in the air and there's stuff. It's not on, bro. It's not on, bro. No. No, bro. You're not killing me like this. Please don't kill me like this. Watch out. Spray. Not doing it.
Corporal Zachary James Small.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates detailing indictments against Corporal Small, as well as County Officer Jacob Roos and County Officer Justin Graham Moore.
Gone are the days where officers can just stand by and turn a blind eye.
According to the indictment, while exchanging suspect Justin Russell, who had escaped police custody while at Hopkins, Corporal Small assaulted and used excessive force on the detainee. At the time, investigators say there were 9 Baltimore County police officers, 7 Baltimore City police officers, and 2 Johns Hopkins Hospital security guards present.
We looked at every single officer's body camera to figure out what they could see and what they couldn't see. And so what we really did is looking at what every single officer, what we could prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe at all. I'm on the ground. Let's get a wagon. I can't breathe. Please help. You asked for it. You asked for it. Remember this. I warned you. I warned you. To open the window. Shut up. Please, bro.
City State's Attorney Bates dismissing the first-degree assault charge against Corporal Small, indicting him on second-degree assault, reckless endangerment, excessive force, and misconduct charges.
I did feel that there would be some evidentiary issues in proving first-degree assault.
The other two officers are charged with failing to intervene under a newer excessive use of force law put into the books less than 2 years ago. This case, Bates' first time filing charges under this statute.
Our interpretation of the law is that they have a duty to do something.
A spokesperson for County Police confirms all 3 members are suspended with pay, and there is an ongoing internal investigation.
And Alexa, we know there were 5 indictments announced today. What can you tell us about the other 2 cases?
Well, yes, Mary, the other 2 cases involve 2 Baltimore City police officers. Officer Alexia Davis was indicted on several charges, including misconduct in office and reckless driving. According to investigators, back in June, Officer Davis caused a collision with a motorcyclist on Sinclair Lane. The victim's leg, investigators say, had to be amputated. The third case involves City Detective June Hall. Investigators allege for about 4 months, Hall logged hours she didn't work on her time card and used her police vehicle for personal errands. According to BPD, Detective Hall is suspended without pay, and Officer Davis has had her police powers suspended. According to Bates, all 5 officers indicted will appear in court in mid-March. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Mental health services will be coming to communities across Maryland this spring. It's part of the blueprint for Maryland's future. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live from Annapolis. Mackenzie, what's the price tag for these plans?
Okay, the price is $111 million, and the proposal and these grants are going to more than 120 different programs. Supporters of these point to the growing concern around kids and their mental health, but with the growing concern as well for their ballooning price tag and future funding for the blueprint in question, we pressed state leaders on how they plan to track tax dollars and progress for these grants.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Mental health services for kids coming to communities across Maryland.
Without stabilizing their behavioral health, they won't be ready to learn.
From one corner to the other, not leaving students behind that need our help.
The need for access to behavioral health services for pre-K-12 students across the state has never been more acute.
It's part of the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, or Kerwin Education Spending Plan. The blueprint, controversial when passed, calls for pouring $30 billion into Maryland classrooms over the next 10 years. $4 billion for each year after that. Included in that spending, 129 grants awarded to every jurisdiction, focusing on behavioral and mental health services for kids, family service programs, even substance abuse assistance. Democratic Senator Katie Fry-Hester says the suicide rates in young boys and girls have doubled and tripled respectively since 2010.
But with this $111 million, we're going to put a stop to that.
But with more spending comes more questions about tracking the tax dollars going out the door.
Can you explain what type of monitoring parameters are put in place for these service providers to ensure that the programs are actually seeing success?
There will be a lot of data collected, a lot of information that each service provider will be responsible for developing. So we will be able to measure the success of these programs.
How often will the service providers be required to provide that data?
I think that one time at the beginning, it'd be like 3, then 6 months, 3 months, then 6 months, and on an ongoing basis.
And if they're not providing the services adequately?
And the staff will be addressing that issue, I assure you.
An assurance from the chair of the committee tasked with overseeing the grant requests and funding choices, but not exactly specific details. Meanwhile, future funding concerns looming, especially for cities and counties continuing to balk at the growing price tag.
It was a gut punch.
The restrictive nature of the blueprint funding is making it very difficult for us to implement without additional funding.
Are you concerned about the possibility of these funds not being there?
No, I'm not concerned about that. I think that this is one of the most important investments we can make.
Senate President Bill Ferguson argues the services are here to stay, even as the price tag for the grants expected to rise to $139 million in 2026 and every year after that during the blueprint.
Now, it's still unclear exactly what metrics will be used when tracking the spending and the progress for these grants, but everyone involved say these programs should help kids across the state. We're live in Annapolis. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Turning to a city in crisis, we're following two big stories for you right now.
A chaotic shooting causes a woman to flip her car. It is all caught on camera. Fox 45 News is looking into a possible motive, though, behind that violence. Shattered glass surrounds Patterson Park, shining a light on the car theft crisis happening across the city. We begin there. Despite last year's 200% increase in car thefts compared to 2022, this year, city police is recording an additional 90% increase. And while it remains really a citywide problem, some areas are definitely being hit harder than others. Our team coverage tonight begins with Rebecca Pryor. She joins us now from Patterson Park, where residents say car crimes are spinning out of control. Rebecca?
Yeah, Mary, every day this massive park draws dozens, if not hundreds of people to its athletic fields and its many walking trails. Many of those people parking here along the park's outer edge, where recently residents say that there has been a massive uptick in car break-ins. Take a look. Remnants of this rise in crime covers almost every corner. When cutting through Patterson Park,
I got to be careful when I walk my dogs.
walkers have to be wary of cutting themselves.
There's glass everywhere. It's a bad look for the city. It makes it look disgusting.
Today, between Elwood and Patterson, in just this 16-block stretch along Eastern Avenue, our cameras counting 62 piles of shattered glass.
It sounds like someone just went on a one-street rampage.
I'll illegally park on the smaller streets before I'll park on Patterson or Eastern.
Residents now learning to steer clear of the streets lining the park out of fear for their pets and cars. On social media, images of back-to-back break-ins being shared. Last Friday, a string of 4 cars hit in one night. And 4 weeks ago, an attempted auto theft caught on camera. Around the same time, Carrie Hall reporting her passenger side window smashed in for the second time in just 2 weeks.
It's just frustrating and got me to thinking, like, is this a safe place for me to be?
We're moving out at the end of this month.
Although shootings and homicides are down citywide, still driving residents out of the city, a dramatic rise in property crimes.
It's unnecessarily unsafe now.
According to BPD's crime map, this year alone, the city already seeing more than 1,600 car break-ins and thefts. A closer look revealing the streets surrounding Patterson Park among some of the hardest hit. In fact, District 1 currently holding the highest car-related crime rates of any of the city's 14 council districts.
I think there really needs to be a heavy police presence.
Very rarely do you see cop cars police along this street at night.
I do not see cops anywhere outside of Fells Point on a night out.
District 1 Councilman Zeke Cohen responding to constituents' concerns with a statement reading in part, quote, "Today I spoke with Major Collin about providing additional patrol to address car break-ins. He committed to increasing patrols around the park during the hours when these crimes are typically committed. Residents should not be subjected to nightly car break-ins." And today I also reached out to BPD for a response to residents' concerns, but as of news time tonight, have not heard back. Reporting live from Patterson Park, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Rebecca. Coming up after the break, incredible video shows a car flipping and the suspect shooting at a driver. Now a suspect is under arrest. What we're learning tonight about the confrontation that ended in gunfire.
Plus, frustration boiling over in Washington over solutions to the chaos at the southern border, the blame game that's playing out.
All right, the countdown to spring is on. Only 28 days away, but you may get a taste of it before we even get there. We're going to show you some warmer numbers coming our way in just a bit.
New details after yesterday's dramatic shooting and rollover crash were caught on camera in a northeast Baltimore neighborhood. Police now say it was a targeted attack. Fox 45's Amy Simpson live at police headquarters after learning that a suspect's now in custody. Amy?
Yes, Mary, a Cockeysville man in custody now facing a first-degree attempted murder charge. Police telling us a 27-year-old Michael Armstrong was found along Bel Air Road here in Baltimore City, less than a half mile from the scene of that shooting. Armstrong allegedly targeted the female victim after an argument yesterday. Police say that victim, a 42-year-old woman, is in stable condition after being shot in the arm and the hand. But tonight we don't know how these two knew each other or what that argument was about. This news, however, is likely coming as a relief for neighbors to hear this was not a random act of violence. That gunfire, however, did leave this neighborhood on edge.
I lived here my whole life, and Baltimore always gets that rep. If it's Baltimore, it's Baltimore. But now it feels like that rep's starting to get a little bit more true, and I don't like it.
We hear about 10 to 12 gunshots. I recognize gunshots immediately.
Well, this afternoon, that suspect's attempted first-degree murder charge was still so new. Case information had yet to post on Maryland's online court database. Charging documents for that suspect will likely reveal what that argument was about. We're live at police headquarters. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. 63 people have survived being shot in Baltimore City this year, compared to 67 by this time last year. Another 28 people have been killed. At this time last year, there had been 34 killed.
Had to wait for the camera to move there, everybody. Good evening. How are you? And, well, things looking pretty good. I had a great morning. It was a little chilly, but you know, anyone who spends their time outdoors day after day would probably admit it wasn't bad at all. But we were able to at least get our temperatures up a little bit, 45 degrees. Once we get to the afternoon, though, really each day, we're going to start to see our temperatures climbing little by little. So high pressure in control right now. That means that our weather has been very pleasant. We haven't had to deal with anything as far as rain's concerned. And of course, our last storm system being several days ago, we've just been seeing things recovering. Now, out west, it's a different story. They continue to get pounded with storm after storm, hardly getting a break. We've been the lucky ones where we get several days in between our weather systems, but the next one's on its way. We'll be seeing and talking about it a little bit here in the coming days, but it'll get here later. So we got another day to day and a half of some quieter and more pleasant weather to come. We may begin your Wednesday with just a little bit of patchy fog, but temperatures around freezing to start. We will still warm up to around the mid-40s. So still the same jacket weather that we had today, but otherwise pleasant. Perhaps a little more fog for your Thursday morning as we start to see the temperatures creeping up day by day. Sometimes we get a little more moisture and that leads to some fog, but usually burning off by the late morning. And we should still reach around 50 degrees. So we're about 5 degrees above the average. And then we're going to start talking about our next system. It starts to arrive late on Thursday. This one's trying to slowly move its way in. We're not talking about it really moving through as quickly as the last one, but most of what we're going to see should be moving across the area late Thursday into Friday. Mostly is rainfall here too. In fact, almost all of it is what we're expecting here as rain. It's not going to quite be cold enough for anything snowfall related. So if you're a little tired of shoveling and you just want to get through this one with nothing more than some wipers and an umbrella, this is going to be that one. But that is our next weather maker. As it arrives, it'll only bring us about a ½ inch of rainfall, give or take here. So good little helping here. Now, what we will see, of course, is a drop in our temperatures once it arrives. And that's going to be late Friday into Saturday with the colder air coming behind it. But there's our average high. It's only going to dip a few degrees below for one day. And then we have him begin to soar again. A taste of spring before it gets here. Mid-60s, yeah, that's what we're talking about. And that's going to be next week for you. Above average temperatures are likely. So 7-day forecast, we only have to deal with 1 out of the next 7 below average. We're going to be in the mild to even warmer category with our next system arriving late next week, but we'll still see some temperatures in the 60s before then.
Gerard, thanks. Still ahead as lawmakers work to address the juvenile crime crisis. The philosophy of the head of the Department of Juvenile Services remains a concern. Today, we catch up with the governor for clarity.
Some Senate Republicans pushing for a full-fledged impeachment trial for Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. I'm Christine Frizzell with why this border issue remains front and center on Capitol Hill.
On Capitol Hill, there remains no clear plan to secure the southern border, despite both Democrats and Republicans insisting it is a top priority. Instead, the blame game is in full swing. As national correspondent Christine Frizzell reports, anger is boiling over.
What do we want? We want a secure border, number one.
The fight over border security prompting a new push for a full-fledged impeachment trial in the U.S. Senate, following a narrow vote in the House by Republicans to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Some conservative senators warning Democrats may try to dismiss the trial, asking Minority Leader Mitch McConnell to step in.
They can stand up and say, you cannot refuse to even follow the constitutional process for impeachment. You can't dodge responsibility. That's what Schumer and the Democrats want to do.
Meanwhile, some other Republican senators have called the effort a waste of time, as Mayorkas himself insists he's not worried.
I don't let it distract me from the work.
But the work of overseeing a border with record-breaking numbers of migrants showing up every day is proving to be a dominant issue in the 2024 presidential campaign, with more voters calling it the top issue. The fight in Texas bringing new aggressive actions, including the installation of more razor wire and this announcement last week.
We are building a new Texas Military Department base camp that allows the Texas National Guard to increase and to improve operations in this area.
A brand new UT Texas Politics Project poll finds Texas voters side with their governor's actions, 2/3 in favor of more walls and using the military to help secure the border. The debate over the way forward playing out as 10 former FBI officials have warned of military-aged men from across the globe landing in waves on our soil by the thousands, including the former terrorist screening center director under President Obama.
We'd average 1 or 2 a month, so maximum 12 to 24. I was concerned about those 24 and made sure the FBI was working those cases. Now there's 336.
Both the House and Senate are on recess this week, so it's hard to know what the next steps in a Mayorkas impeachment might look like. Meanwhile, the House did just release a bipartisan border and foreign aid bill after one failed in the Senate. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
And that brings us to our national question of the day. Do you believe the Biden administration's policies encourage migrants to cross the border illegally? To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com, click on the Pulse tab. Coming up after the break, frustration growing tonight over the lack of citations being written in Baltimore City. A closer look at the numbers and the lack of resources. And now you can watch Fox 45 News for free anytime on Amazon Fire TV or Samsung TV Plus. Fox 45 News following three big stories for you at 5:30.
Frustration grows among parents over a survey surrounding gender identity, while critics argue it is inappropriate for the classroom.
Baltimore City's citation docket seeing even more pushback, the services that are not being provided.
Youth crime is a topic in Annapolis this session, with new bills from Democrats that would extend juvenile probation, change policy within DJS, and allow kids as young as 10 to be charged with violent crimes and car theft.
And we begin there. Those bills clash with the philosophy of Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi.
Last night at a Your Voice, Your Future town hall with Armstrong Williams, we pressed Governor Moore on whether the rift between the bills he's backing and Schiraldi's ideas could cause issues within the state's juvenile crime response. Governor Moore didn't hesitate to tell Marylanders who ultimately has the final say.
There was no long-term relationship that sometimes gets advertised. And I think it's also important to remember that the policies that are put out from the Moore-Miller administration, let's be clear who the governor is.
Tonight, we have team coverage diving into all of our top stories.
We begin with Mackenzie Frost. She joins us live from Annapolis after pressing Governor Moore on these issues. Mackenzie?
Yeah, guys, so we know the governor says that some of the previous comments from Secretary Vincent Schiraldi, the leader of the Department of Juvenile Services, doesn't necessarily represent the current views of the Moore-Miller administration. And today, when we pressed the governor, he continues to double down in making sure Marylanders knows who's in charge and ultimately making the final say. If the secretary's views don't align with your administration, why is he in that position?
Well, I know the policies for the Moore-Miller administration are going to be the policies for the Moore-Miller administration. A position or an opinion that someone held in their past job or in their past life, that's the position they had in the past job or in a past life. I know that the positions that we have in our administration about focusing on accountability when it comes to our juveniles, about that we are going to be a state that is going to strengthen how we think about parole and probation and not eliminate parole and probation. These are the policies of our administration. And so while we might have people within the administration who might in other jobs have said X, Y, or Z, we're also very clear that we're one team here, and these are policies that are going to be followed within our administration with me as the team captain, as the governor.
But that's not exactly what we're seeing play out right now, right? The governor, we just heard him say that some of these comments may have been made from people in his administration during previous jobs. But we know that Secretary Schiraldi wrote a book recently outlining the possibility of what it might look like to eliminate parole and probation. That book was published in September of 2023 while Schiraldi was serving as a secretary for the Department of Juvenile Services. And now top Democrats have introduced a bill that calls for extending the length of probation. So while the governor says that he maintains that people are on the same page and everyone is working on the same team, it's clear that there are still varying opinions from those within his own administration. We're live in Annapolis. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. That brings us to our question of the day. Do you trust Governor Moore to get the juvenile crime crisis under control? You can head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Tonight, we're taking a closer look at the city's citation docket and if people are getting the help they need as the state's attorney's office expresses frustration with police for not issuing enough citations. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker joins us live in Baltimore with a closer look at some of these numbers. Maxine?
Well, Mary, the goal of the citation docket is not necessarily jail time for offenders, rather to connect them with wraparound services or even offer them a chance to do community service. But the concern is if citations aren't being written, people are missing out on getting help.
We have a willing state's attorney. We have a state's attorney who is willing to enforce these quality of life crimes.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates is remaining steadfast in the success of the citation docket. But there's frustration that some of their partners aren't on board. Police only issuing 37 citations that have made it to court since the program's inception. About half were rejected internally.
The purpose of this docket was to get individuals who might be involved in committing some of these offenses away from the traditional criminal prosecution dockets and provide a diversion lane for them.
Deputy State's Attorney Angela Galliano says individuals who receive a citation have the opportunity to agree to community service or wraparound services.
Perhaps they express a need for job training, job placement, any sort of resources, drug treatment even, any sort of resources that they might need to help them out of the cycle of criminal activity.
But if citations aren't written, they're missing out.
And we feel like that there are individuals out there who perhaps could use some direction with the diversion resources that we can offer, and it's a missed opportunity.
Of the 279 total citations issued by all agencies, 72 people completed an alternative program. 47 people accepted community service and 4 rejected it. 45 people were issued a bench warrant for failing to appear, and others either failed to complete services or weren't eligible.
The theory is that if people are committing these sort of low-level crimes, we can help.
City council members are expressing similar concern with the docket.
If we don't get people through the system and connected to resources, then we've never actually proven the theory here.
Galliano says there's also frustration with another piece of the puzzle, the mayor's office of neighborhood safety and engagement. She says they first sent an MOU to Monzi last year when the docket began in an effort to partner with them for diversion resources. But that MOU was never completed, forcing them to look elsewhere for help for the people of Baltimore.
In the meantime, we did have to reach out to other partners in order to fill that hole. So we do have something in place.
So we reached out to Monzi and asked them what was going on with this delay. A spokesperson tells us that the MOU was sent at the same time leadership changes were happening within Monzi, but they are committed to getting it done. Reporting live in Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Tonight, some parents with kids at St. Paul's schools are saying enough is enough. They've started a petition asking the schools to stop DEI programs.
Fox 45's Jessica Babb shows us why some say the school's approach is inappropriate.
On their website, St. Paul's schools say they want to create a space where everyone feels valued and respected. But according to the online petition, more than 140 parents say they don't agree with how the school is doing it. Inside this gate at St. Paul's School, this survey stirred up controversy.
It asks kids very intrusive questions.
A parent saying an identity survey was given to 5th grade students at St. Paul's School for Boys, asking students about their gender identity, sexuality, religion, and cognitive abilities. Now, this petition has surfaced where parents are voicing their concerns.
Parents should be in the driver's seat in their kids' education.
They're saying the school's diversity, equity, and inclusion program should be stopped until a defined plan can be put in place and is approved by the community. Alexis Nestor with Parents Defending Education says parents just want to be included.
They're asking for the board to simply present a plan. That's the most basic thing that this school could do for these families.
The petition saying in part, quote, the administration is pursuing the program in a manner that either lacks competence or good judgment.
They're also asking the board to prove that these DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives can prove, good results for kids.
Parents also saying the conversation of sexual orientation and preferences at school is, quote, inappropriate and unnecessary.
The focus should be on education, and these parents are raising the red flag.
I reached out to St. Paul's School asking about their response to this petition and if they have a plan in place for how DEI is implemented. If not, I asked if they plan to create one.
These are parents who are paying for their kids to attend this private school, and they have a right to be included in those conversations.
In a statement from the school, they say they're called to foster a community where students feel loved, seen, and supported. They say it's their duty to equip students with empathy and awareness to engage with different beliefs and perspectives, preparing them to live in a diverse world.
Parents are speaking up and trying to hold the Board of Trustees accountable.
Jessica Babb, Fox 45 News.
New tonight, a controversial development bill in Baltimore County will be withdrawn and a new piece of legislation will be introduced. Baltimore County officials are calling it a compromise. Bill 324 is a proposal to rezone certain abandoned and dilapidated commercial hubs. But many council members voiced their concerns, saying it didn't give them as much say in the development process. But now, the new legislation that is expected to be introduced soon addresses that by giving council members more control, allowing them to create new mixed-use zoning districts, which would allow development within targeted areas. Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley says she is not dropping her 2024 bid for the White House. It comes as Haley's home state of South Carolina prepares for its primary on Saturday. Polls show her trailing former President Trump by a large margin, but the former United Nations ambassador is vowing to stay in the fight. Haley telling a crowd at Clemson University today she is running because she says we've got a country to save.
That's why I refuse to quit. South Carolina will vote on Saturday, but on Sunday, I'll still be running for president. I'm not going anywhere.
Haley tells the Associated Press she will stay in the race at least until Super Tuesday, March 5th. Her campaign raised $16.5 million in January alone, marking her best fundraising month ever.
President Biden's got some money in the bank.